What is up, everyone? Matt Parrino from NYUp and Syracuse.com coming to you one final time from here on the campus of St. John Fisher College, Pittsford, New York. It's been a fun 2 weeks in Rochester, but we're headed back to Buffalo. Big preseason game Thursday night, and we appreciate you coming along for the ride during training camp so far and everything else to come, preseason, regular season, playoffs. We'll talk about that more later. But right now, I want to give you my camp wrap, and we're going to start with the stock report. After 2 weeks, I've picked out three players whose stock is on the rise and stock that's going down, and we're going to start with the risers. And I'm going with, first of all, the guy that's kind of jumped out to me and impressed me the most at training camp has been Ray McLeod. I've talked a lot about him over the course of the last couple of weeks, and I thought that, he's really shown what he talked about back in the spring, that he's come in focused. He knows that he has to have a big performance, not only in training camp, but in the preseason if he wants to win a roster spot. And right now, if you have the pecking order, it goes John Brown, Cole Beasley, Zay Jones, Robert Foster, Andre Roberts. Those are my five locks to make this roster right now. And right after that is Ray McLeod, and I think he's going to be the sixth guy on this team at wide receiver. He's made plays consistently over and over again. And I think that the coaching staff, from Chad Hall all the way up to Brian Dable and Sean McDermott, have appreciated what he's brought to the table and what he's been able to do so far. So he's number one on the list. Number two, Shaq Lawson. And you probably say, Shaq had a pretty good year last year. What do you mean he's on the rise? Well, we all know that the Bills did not pick up his fifth-year option. This is a big year for Shaq Lawson, and all he has done has come into training camp and kicked it up a notch. He's moved over to the right side. He's backing up Jerry Hughes, and I think in that role, subbing in and out with Jerry Hughes and bringing that fresh pass rush, and we already know what he brings as in the run game. I think that Shaq Lawson is poised for a big breakout season, so I'm going to be watching him closely in the preseason because he's really shown up in training camp, popped a little bit. And, we all know about his energy, his juice. He's bringing that on the daily. Number three, tight end, Dawson Knox, injured. Jason Kroom, injured. Tyler Croft, injured. Tommy Sweeney from Boston College. He has really popped. He's making highlight plays in the passing game, practice after practice. I talked to Lee Smith 2 days ago. We're going to have a story up at NYUp and Syracuse.com coming later this week from that conversation. Lee Smith said, hey, listen, if you're judging Tommy Sweeney and calling him a blocking tight end only, you're going to be very surprised. And I think that, he's taking the most out of his opportunity here. And, he's making plays. He looks like he's figuring it out. And that's what Sean McDermott, Brandon Beane have talked about with all of these injuries across the board. It's all about these guys taking advantage of their opportunities. Tommy Sweeney has done that. On the other side, stock may be down a little bit. We're going to start with TJ Yeldon. It's been tough going. It's second, third team reps for a guy that's been, consistently a number two option in Jacksonville the last few years behind Leonard Fournette. He's just not getting the reps. He's behind Frank Gore, LaShawn McCoy, Devin Singletary, who's kind of been a camp darling. And I think TJ Yeldon has a lot to prove over the next couple of weeks as we get into the preseason. Those are going to be very important games for him. But even with that said, even with where things sit right now, him making a couple mistakes here and there, dropping some balls, which is where he's supposed to be really good, I think that there's a lot of opportunity over the next couple of weeks for TJ Yeldon to kind of bounce back and maybe earn that fourth running back spot. Also, a stock down, I'm going to go with David Sills. I know a lot of Bills fans are super high on David Sills. I've talked to him a few times, a really nice guy, but consistently in warm-up drills, the hands are really it's alarming how many passes he's dropping. I've noted a few times during my observations that I think that, from a physicality perspective, he's just not there yet. You look at Duke Williams, who's mixing it up in a couple one-on-one situations and showing off his physicality. David Sills has to work on his body a little bit. He's got to get bigger. And I think that every time he gets pushed in his routes, he goes off balance and he struggles from there on out in that play. And I think that so far, listen, we still have 4 games to go, and I think that he can prove a lot. But at this stage, I think his stock's quite a bit down compared to where it was heading into training camp. And finally, Russell Bodine has been the number one center with Mitch Morse on the IR. The team released their unofficial depth chart, and even then they have Spencer Long slotted above Russell Bodine. Listen, he hasn't been very good. I have a hard time believing that he's going to be able to make this team because Josh Allen has been on the run, playing behind Russell Bodine, and with that really good defensive line playing on the other side. So, yeah, Russell Bodine stock way down. We'll move right on to Josh Allen there. And I think that, if you want to take the last 2 weeks and take a look at his camp, I think if you're a Bills fan, you have to be encouraged by a couple things. Number one, they're really working on the short to intermediate passing game consistently over and over again. And that means Cole Beasley, that means the running backs, and that even means guys like John Brown and Robert Foster on the outside, who I think are going to offer a lot more security to Josh Allen in that 10 to 12-yard range because of the threat of them going deep. So I think Josh Allen has taken more checkdowns. Brandon Beane, Sean McDermott have noted that. And it's been good. I talked to Brandon Beane today. We'll have more on that tomorrow about Josh Allen. And he said what he's liked is iron sharpens iron. Josh going against a defense, Sean McDermott's defense, that doesn't like to give up the big plays is only going to make him more prepared once he gets into the game environment. And yeah, Josh Allen, moving right along. Projected offensive line. I know that's one of the hottest topics of debate out there right now. And I think what we've seen the last couple of days is a glimpse of what the Bills hope this offensive line will look like. And I'm talking about Deion Dawkins at left tackle, Quentin Spain at left guard, Mitch Morse at center. I know Russell Bodine has been there the last few days with Morse still in the concussion protocol. And then at right guard, the big switch this week, Cody Ford drafted, and Brandon Beane said that they view him as a right tackle, and I think he views himself as a right tackle. Sean McDermott said that he's liked the way that Cody Ford has handled the move inside, his mental toughness and being unselfish, which makes me think he views himself as a right tackle. But he's in at right guard, and I think that's where he could potentially fit. And then Ty and Seke out at right tackle. And what that does then is it offers you some depth behind those five and some position flexibility. You have John Feliciano, who could play guard and center. Spencer Long, guard and center. Connor McDermott with Adrian Waddle's quad tear. You could have Connor McDermott, who's experienced in this offense as your potential swing tackle. And then you have Wyatt Teller, who I'd also like to bring up. He's been playing well the last couple of days. Don't forget, he started 9 games for this team last season, and I think that he can still be a contributor. He may not win a starting job out of camp, but Quentin Spain's already been dinged up a few times, first in the spring and then for a day or two back at the start of training camp. So I'm very interested to see what Wyatt Teller does with the opportunities given to him over the course of the next 4 days. Finally, before I get out of here, Ed Oliver, is he ready for the games? And man, there's been moments this training camp where we've talked about it, we've written about it. He has just looked like the absolute monster that I think the Bills were hoping he was going to be when they drafted him. Um, we talked to Ed Oliver today after practice, and he said one of the things that he learned the most from this training camp period is how to practice, what it means to go up against NFL quality offensive linemen, and the speed of the game, the difference from college to the pros, and learning how to win from a technique standpoint as opposed to just your natural gifts. And he worked a lot with Kyle Williams over the course of the first week, and then Kyle at the end of that time said, "Listen, I've taught you a ton of what I know. I've really been impressed with what you've learned. Go fly, little bird." And Ed Oliver has taken that. He's getting a lot of first team reps, and I anticipate, despite him being on that second team on the depth chart, I think he's going to get some first team run in the preseason game this Thursday night against the Colts. And I think he's going to be a regular on that first team in the rotation. When he comes into the game, we've seen Jordan Phillips shifts to that one technique role. And I really like Jordan Phillips in that role almost as much as I like him in the 3-tech role. So Sean McDermott has exactly what he wants, and he has depth on that defensive line. He has a healthy Trent Murphy now, who is also, you want to talk about stock up. If I can add another one to that list, I'd add him there as well. It's been a fun 2 weeks. We are just getting started. As always, keep it locked on to NY Up, Syracuse.com. You can find me on social media. Twitter is the best place, at Matt Parrino. Follow us on Instagram, at Buffalo Bills NY Up. And we're also on Facebook. Guys, thank you so much, and we'll see you Thursday night.